I have a ship that I really enjoy. And I know I've already spoiled it, but I'm going to do my monologue and I'm going to have fun with it. This ship, my friends, it's a workman's ship. It's a real ship, sweat off your brow kind of ship. The lifeblood of the verse, keeping everybody going where they need to go and making sure they can do it. This is a ship the Jedi wouldn't tell you about, if you asked. My friends, the Aegis Vulcan is a very ignored ship by CIG. And it pains me. It hurts me. CIG, why do you do this? Why did you show us this? And then take so long to make it. Now, Banu Merchantman fans, all right, I'm kidding. But this is like a small ship. This thing is 38.5 meters in length. It's not small. It's like medium, but it's not like a huge ship. 38 meters in length, 16 meters in width, 10 meters in height. This is like a Zeus, if you wanted to do something more useful with it. And the initial introduction of it reads that the Aegis Vulcan is a versatile support ship capable of refueling, repairing, and rearming other vessels. Love it. It is designed to provide support in scenarios including assisting friendly pilots pinned down by heavy fire and in need of ammunition, those low on quantum fuel after an ill-planned jump, and stranded in unknown space with a busted thruster. This is what everybody thought was going to be the Fire Ratch ship when it came out. And to be quite honest, I think a lot of people were hoping this would be out by Pyro since they wanted to have refueling in a good place, but since the Starfarer still can't do all of its refueling correctly, doesn't make sense for us to get this one, right? That being said, they introduced this back in 2018, I believe. 2018. And I'll tell you right now, the main reason it's being held back is the drones, which are a big part of this ship. It's something that we see in the Carrack, in the Reclaimer, in actually the next ship we're talking about today, the Pioneer. Just in general, drones are kind of a big part of the game, but they're holding back a lot of the game. And I'm going to give you a little look here in a second. John Crew actually shares some progress on drone development. Now, this is from 2022, but it does give us a little bit of an idea of why it might have taken so long and where drones might be. But before that, let's check out the Q&A and see what they say about the ship, because it's a pretty cool ship. I'm not even going to look at the drone questions too much, because anything surrounding drones that has changed since this was announced, night and day. It's going to be so different than what they were probably thinking back then. We saw even over the course of a year, they were like, the idea behind drones changed enough in the course of a year that they tried to say that the Galaxy wasn't going to be a base builder anymore. Likely because of how drones would have complicated the design. So to look at that in just 2024 and then think, okay, this was unveiled almost 7 years ago now. No, more than 7 years ago now. You gotta take it with a grain of salt. All right, so this is saying, how many 100% empty small and medium fuel tanks can a Vulcan fill? This is an important question, because this isn't about the ship itself. This is about how they're going to balance it. So whatever they say here, again, take it with a grain of salt, but this is probably going to point us towards what they want the Vulcan to at least be capable of doing in the game itself. So they say it's a difficult question to answer accurately because every ship in the game has a bespoke fuel tank. But you can remember that the role of the Vulcan isn't to completely fill tanks, although it can do that with repeat fills to provide enough fuel to get you to the proper fuel point. But to put a ballpark estimate, that will naturally adjust during development and testing. We would expect that the Vulcan would be able to fully fill 8 to 10 or so small tanks, 2 to 3 or so medium tanks, and half of a large tank. Filling a tank will require multiple trips with drones, however. So the Vulcan itself will carry a certain amount of fuel, and it would be enough to, say, fill up 8 to 10 Gladius tanks. So you could just be out, let's say you and several friends want to find the hardest of hardcore ship combat. And it just so happens that Not even Pyro. It's off in the Vegas system. But because the Vegas system is so war-torn from everything, there aren't space stations that offer reliable fuel for like 2 star systems outside of a military system, right? So maybe you get reputation high enough with the UEE that you can just stop off at that system at their civilian port or something and get fuel. But everybody else is kind of screwed. So as a group of fighters, let's say long-range fighters, because you're going out to these systems, you're in like vanguards, maybe there's like a guardian or something, but y'all need fuel. You could have a friend out there who could basically run you guys for hours on end, just chilling. And on top of that, I think this ship has actually some cargo space. Now, you might use that cargo space for the ammo and the fuel and stuff, but you could also maybe return some loot. 12 SC is not very much. But this is part of a fleet. And it's not even part of like your big 40, 50 person org kind of fleet. This is part of your 10 to 15 person group. It's still a hefty group of people, but this isn't something that requires a whole bunch of people to really benefit from. I also think though with the beacons, with the stuff they mentioned, going back to CitizenCon last year, and looking at just how much they have planned for people being able to bounce off each other. All this kind of stuff. Like this is, I guess this is more guides. There we go. Your rating, repair ratings, your refueling ratings. That's the Vulcan. And that's like the Vulcan is the workhorse in that area. You're not going to find a ship that I think is more qualified for this position because you need enough space to hold the cargo. You need enough space to hold the drones. You need enough space to hold the fuel. But you also don't want to be so big that you need an escort to feel safe. You know, you want a small ship that you feel like you can get around without attracting a lot of attention. And a Starford is a lot of attention. So I think that we're going to see a ton of this thing. It pains me that we still don't have the drones making it a possibility. Will the drones be able to pick up materials from other places than the cribs on board the Vulcan? The drones do have basic arms and clamps to carry stuff, but the main purpose is to take them from the cribs on board the Vulcan. Can they carry stuff? Like, can I drone loot for me? There's nothing to stop them from taking there's nothing to stop them taking it from elsewhere, provided the drone can actually access those areas. Interesting. That's interesting. How are these drones different from the standalone repair bot we get with 3.3? Completely different, most likely much smaller. It is personal after all. Yeah, that's I think that's like a stretch goal or something. What is the largest ship a Vulcan would be able to fully refuel? They kind of already talked about that, but they're saying anything around a Retaliator or a Constellation. Again, that means if this ship comes in and it's not refueling a Retaliator or Constellation, then that's probably going to change. But this also means the second caveat, this was 6 years ago, 7 years ago. So their ideas of ship ranges might also change. What I'm trying to say is like, this Q&A is giving us some idea of where they want to go. And I think you can expect it to go in that direction. But as far as specifics are, I still don't think this is going to have all of the news. And I wouldn't have said that a year ago, but I do genuinely think that the game in terms of design, they're finding ways to change it to fit something that is a little bit more sellable, approachable, finishable. Pick one. Does the cargo bay function as an airlock? Can they drain fuel out of friendly ships? We discussed this in Reverse the Verse we did on the Vulcan, and again, this is not something we had in mind for the ship, but the systems should not prevent this, as it's essentially part of the salvaging gameplay loop. There is an important confirmation of something that doesn't get talked about enough. Pulling the oxygen, water, and fuel out of a ship is going to be part of salvage. Salvage is not always going to just be taking the hull and crunching the ship. You could literally run into a ship and strip it of its fuel just to get back home. I love that. I think that's so much. God. I I don't want to ever be in that situation, but if I am, I'm glad that I can do that. Can a Vulcan itself refuel and buy fuel from a starfare? E. Interesting word choice by stating these drones have tug functions. What will they use this for? Tug in the context of the brochure was marketing, making the word carry sound more interesting. Okay. How much space does ammo take up? 12 SU doesn't seem like much for rearming. That depends on what ammo you're bringing. The current volume of the cargo grid has a volume of over 20 cubic meters of space to fill with ammo, ship items, or cargo. The cargo room on the Vulcan is also quite spacious, and if during development we feel the need for greater capacity, then there is room to increase this. Another confirmation there for those who didn't know. I think they kind of went over this with the Perseus though, but ballistic ammo is going to take up space. So if you are a refueling and repair ship, you're getting yourself some premium by dedicating your space to ammo, whereas other people are going to be putting cargo on it. And that might make you more money when you're out in that war zone. Will the drones be able to work in a gravity well in atmosphere? Yes, they said. How will I know what needs to be repaired and where it is on the ship I am repairing? We'll be discussing this more in the lead up to repair and salvage gameplay being introduced into the game in a future patch. Little did they know, a future patch wouldn't be coming for 5 years. Can you give some details about how drones will be controlled by the operators? They say drones will be controlled from the support stations in the cockpit of the Vulcan. The players will sit down at the station and fly the drone from first-person perspective via the screen, so it'll be just like how we control tractor beams. They will function and fly to all intents and purposes like any other ship in the game. So drones aren't going to be autonomous. You have to control them. They're basically no interior spaceship. A really small non-interior spaceship. And like I said, John Crew is about to say some stuff about that here after we finish this. Will we need a good stockpile of ship components to be able to effectively repair all ships? Another topic we discussed, but only if you want to be able to repair all ships. The Vulcan can be played however you want to play it, be it lurking near a shop to stock up on the exact items needed by customers, or filled with generic items, allowing a potentially faster response to people in need. Wait a second, that's not really something I thought about before. You don't necessarily have to be available to repair. It depends on how long somebody's willing to wait. If somebody says, I need this specific component, your ship could do it, but that only really matters if there's a specific way it needs to be installed. Otherwise, any ship could sit around and wait at a shop for a component to become available. Interesting. Ground vehicles also available to be serviced by this ship. All right. So here's what I had found. Again, I think this is the last time any developer has talked about drone development in any sort of depth or given us an idea of like where their progress is or where they were headed. Let you guys listen in on this for a little bit.
Okay, sorry. My Outlook thing popped up right over your face for a second. Let's see what else we got from the chat here. Has there been any more progress on drones for the ships that use them? Carrack, Reclaimer, Vulcan, I think Apollo? Apollo had some, maybe?
Yes, sort of. The Apollo. Short answer, no. There's nothing to specifically talk about. Slightly longer answer is there are multiple scenarios in like Squadron, mostly in like the side missions that make use of them. So they are on the vehicle feature team schedule in the near future to essentially do like a lightweight ship IFCS that is remote controlled that will be the foundational aspect of drones in the PU.
So, as always, it's working in Squadron, not in the PU.
Tom the Dog says, Jared Huckabee, are you happy in the UK? I am thrilled. I am happier and healthier than I...
Yeah, this was right when he moved. He moved, yeah, actually, I think he moved a year before this. Genuinely, I think it looked like it was... I don't want to say like a bad move. It seemed like it was a lot on him though, and I think maybe that's why people are asking.
been in years. This was a long time coming. Just had to get around to doing it. And come next quarter, you're going to see the next big chapter of me in the UK.
So
If you don't get run down by cars again.
If I don't get run down by a car.
all right, so that's basically what we know. They were getting it working for Squadron. They want to get it working for Star Citizen as well. But really, I think until we see a specific mention of drones, this is also something that's a little bit weird, as people are asking in the chat. The monthly report is showing us work on the Apollo, but let's be honest, core gameplay isn't showing us anything on medical. Core gameplay is also not showing us anything on drones. So even though these ships are getting worked on, and I'm excited for a ship, the Vulcan is not getting worked on, by the way. Just want to make that very clear. I'm just covering this because I love this ship. There was no recent news drop about this or anything. Just summarizing the things that I know. But because, like, none of these ships really, I don't expect them to come out unless there's gameplay being worked on alongside them. And they're working on the Apollo, but if they release this thing without drones or without any extended medical gameplay, I'm like, what are you guys doing? Don't do that. So we'll see what happens. All right, let me give you guys a look at what the actual introduction of the ship is. I know I did all my talking, but here's the official part.
Manchester studio to bring Star Citizen's first multi-profession starter ship to life with the Aegis Vulcan.
See, he calls it a multi-profession starter ship, but I bet you they'll sneak something in that can undercut this. I mean, it's at $200. They ought to get something in at like $100 maximum that can do repair stuff. That can at least support repair gameplay. It doesn't have to come with drones. Just got to give them something to do.
So the Aegis Vulcan is a sort of starting ship for a bunch of professions that we already have in game, but we only sort of have the end game ships for people to use. So if you're interested in refueling or repairing, you've got the Starfarer and the Crucible. So those are pretty big ships to sort of jump in at if you want to go, oh, today I want to do some repairing of ships. You're looking at these huge ships that have substantial crew requirements and time requirements to get. If you jump in at those and find, well, actually I don't like this, then it's a huge time investment waste on that. So the Vulcan is sort of the jack of all trades starter ship.
What was the thing we always used to say? Punches above its weight class.
Professions, it does repairing, it does refueling, and it does rearming, which is something we don't have in any ship currently. It's a versatile support ship. It's there to support.
How many other ships do we have rearming? Now that he mentions that, I don't even know if there are any other ships anywhere near this size besides, because it's just the Crucible, right? Is there anything else focused on this? Man, there's no way they're not going to introduce a new ship when they introduce engineering. They're definitely going to introduce a ship that's meant to focus on repair and component recovery when they do engineering. Hell, maybe that's when they introduce drones. Who knows?
Support of the ships. It's not great at combat. It's not great at transport. It's not great at racing.
Not great at combat, huh?
Helping out with other ships. So if you're that sort of person that is interested
if we could find
not the more active combat side, but
concept image of it
others,
in battle,
this is a really great entry into that, because it does allow you to help out massively for ships that run out of fuel, ships that have minor damage, ships that run out of ammo and
in battle but not shooting,
stuck out in deep space, and they can call for your help, and you can go out there and give them just enough.
Hey, Execute, what's up, man? How you doing? Profession starter they were, now they're a lot smarter like the Golem. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they thought that their profession starters had to have interiors back then, but now they can go and do a whole bunch of different stuff with them.
To get them to where they need to go to. It's sort of like the space AA or AAA for America. You call them up, they give you just enough to get to where you're going, and then you can do your full repairs, rearm, refuel there. So the mechanic for doing the repairing, refueling, rearming is via its drones. So it has 4 drones that are sort of contained within the body of the ship, and then it can launch them out. These drones can
Yeah, actually, with this small of a size for a ship like this, they're gonna have to make refueling fairly profitable, which means you're probably gonna need to be in places where fuel is less common. So you're running a long-range ship in this, some long-range missions. The whole balance of fuel scarcity in this game is very, very pertinent question, I guess, especially because we just don't even know the distances that they're going to start shrinking systems to. Like Pyro, they made pretty small compared to what it was supposed to be. What are they going to do with Ellis? Ellis is like 98 AU or something like that. Yeah, these are manually controlled drones. They say we make our own prices, but the prices would still have to depend on whatever the nearest source of fuel is, right? If they make the nearest sources of fuel have fuel that is so cheap that you need to pump 42 SUs of fuel just to make a profit, nobody's going to use the Vulcan in that area, kind of thing. So it's going to be interesting to see how they balance that.
all 3 actions, but they can only do 1 at a time before they have to go back to the mothership to.
This is really all we've ever seen when it comes to drones and how they would act and
once
launch.
You've got 4 and they can do everything, they can't do it all together, so you can't have 4 out fixing everything at a time. There are only 2 stations to control the drones, so again, it sort of keeps tabs on what it can do. It's a 3-person ship, so you've got 1 person flying and 2 support stations, which would be either controlling the turrets or controlling the drones. So naturally, if you're in a sort of hostile environment, you may not want to have everybody controlling the drones and leaving yourself defenseless. So you sort of got to trade off your defensive capabilities with your support capabilities.
Just fight with the drones.
So we see probably 2 drones at a time going out at any one time, doing 1 or 2 of those 3 features. And the extra 2 are just there for if you want to quickly change what you're doing. They're all stocked in the ship, ready to go. You can send them out. Naturally, the drones will either stay where you've left them or continue on an AI behavior. Or if you're out for an extended duration of time, you're probably going to start losing these drones. They might get damaged. You might be careless flying them around. If you're trying to repair a ship, you might
God, they're probably
bang
so
into it and
expensive
destroy the
to
drone.
replace.
So we felt that if you only had 2 and you can only use 2 at a time and 1 gets destroyed, that's quite a harsh penalty. You sort of lost 50% of your ability to do anything off the bat. So we've got those extra 2 as sort of redundancies and allows you to just stay out that bit longer.
I see. I always think of it as having 4 drones, but it's really just 2 with backups. There are 2 control stations. So yes, a player will control the drones at almost all times.
There's crew quarters in there, so it's not a I've got a mission to go do this item, I've got to go there, come back, because I can't survive out in space. You've got your crew beds, you've got basic living quarters, basic accommodation. So we see people spending significant amounts of time out on these missions, using up their drones, using up their supplies. There's a very small cargo hold to keep supplies in there, which sort of feeds into the drones. If you're carting ammo around, you're not physically carrying ammo boxes to it, they go into the drones do it. There's an extended fuel tank under the body of the ship, which is where the fuel that you're piping to these ships come from, and then the drones themselves do the repair, much like we have in the PU at the moment with the little drones on the cryastro stations where you land, they come out and repair you. It's very similar to that.
So there's a small crew on this ship, 3 people, pilot, and then 2 support staff basically, and they can basically either control the guns or the drones basically. So I guess I don't know if you'll have to fight it out over who does what, or if they can both. I guess you've got 2 drones on either side of the ship, so I guess possibly one guy could do 2 on one side, 2 on another, and send them off do their thing. So the ship is. The way it works is...
You guys are noticing how much different Around the Verse used to be from Inside Star Citizen? It's just like... they were long, so they were really fun to watch, but the information density was so much lower.
Entry is from the rear of the ship, so you've got a big tailgate that sort of opens up, and that gives you access to the cargo area. And I think it's 12 SCUs that it can hold, and then there's a small elevator that takes you up. It's almost like a mezzanine, and then it takes you to the living quarters. Some basic habitation at the rear of the craft. So a couple of beds, the obligatory toilet and shower.
An obligatory toilet.
Food
I hope
station.
it's obligatory.
A little table. It's very much. It's in the. It's that same sort of style as. It's basically the industrial Aegis, essentially. And so that feeds through the whole of the ship.
Interesting, they didn't make it look like a
We've taken a
reclaimer.
lot of what the art team have done when they've been making the reclaimer and sort of pulled that in and used that and used it as sort of not a template, but just helped to define the style of the interior.
Okay.
There's 3 liveries basically that we've done for the ship. One's more military based. That's one we sort of focused on initially, just to get the ship through the pipeline. And then after that, it was then we had we had more time to then sort of focus on.
Every time they have these R numbers on the side, shout out to my HVAC people in chat, I keep thinking it's refrigerant. Like this ship runs on R17. You got, I don't know, something else recently was running on R22. Just archaic standards. This ship is called the Aegis Vulcan.
The alternatives. Sometimes the ships sort of fight you back. And you have to, sometimes you just have to, you're like up to 80 iterations before you hit on the shape, before you go to 3D. That does sound a lot, and sometimes that's just the way it is. So on this one, it was a pretty strong start, and like I said, it is the sort of stylistically the baby reclaimer, and just by its very nature of what it does, the functionality that needs to be in the ship, I won't say it designs itself, but it's close to it. There's a logical route that you want to take.
I wish that translated into its production.
Even though it's a relatively small ship, there's still a lot of interest in the spaces. But I like it. I think it's got a good feel. So I'm looking forward to when this one gets built.
This gives you that taste of those careers and see whether you actually enjoy doing it, whether you feel it's got a sort of an in-game money-making opportunity enough that you want to do it full-term or full-time as a procession. It's not for everyone, but lots of people just love that support gameplay, and this is really a ship for that.
Refueling, repairing, and rearming. And with a collection of skins to do so in style, the Aegis Vulcan is our...
Is it?
Now,
Do they have
farther
it on-
along than the Vulcan, we have
okay, I thought they were going to say it was somewhere in development.
could be Star Citizen's most versatile starter ship yet. And, well, I can tell you, I'm going to be picking up mine to be certain. Now, if only Vulcan owners could have a special salute to greet others with. This'll work. Now, farther along than the Vulcan,
All right.
we have a number of ships working
So
their way...
there are plenty of other ships going into the works back then. You can see the Caracas here. Constellation rework was up here. Is the Banu Merchantman. Oh, good joy. And I think that might be the Pioneer down there. That's the next ship we're going to talk about. But that's the Aegis Vulcan. Arguably one of my favorite ships in this game, and something that I'm really, really interested to see what happens when it comes into the game. But we don't really have much else to go off of other than those things. I don't think there's been any updates recently on this ship in particular. Just what we looked at with drones. And there you go.